Good evening. Welcome to another edition of the 411 Talk Song Radio Show right here on YouTube. My name is Leon Jones, and what I'm going to talk about tonight is based off of a number of Kendra G videos that I've seen. And I'm going to reference it to owning a business and making six figures, which is $100,000 and greater. Now, since I've been watching some of Kendra G's videos, I don't go into a lot of them because she's just as delusional as some of the women she has on her show. I mean, you have to ask yourself this question. You have a number of these delusional, immature women who come on her show and they act like they're making bank. But are they really making bank? And see, what I don't understand about the host of that show is when they talk about being an entrepreneur, she never asked them what they really do. But I know what most of them do. They're doing something that is basically self employing themselves. Now, kudos to that. I'm not knocking anybody for owning a business. However, when it comes down to owning a business, you have to look at these potential issues that will occur. Okay, advertising. Advertising is a cost. What about setting up a logo? And when you go through the intellectual property lawyer who can do the paperwork for you, it's going to cost you some money. So you can come up with a logo. And I did for quality control inspection services. If you go to my second channel, you'll see the QCIS channel. Well, that logo is my future engineering business called Quality Control Inspection Services. See, I did all the paperwork and I had the capital. But when it comes to a business, most businesses don't last because of the competition, because of the lack of knowledge that individuals have in running a business. Also, it's the product when it comes to running a business. So when you hear a number of the individuals on Kendra G's show talk about I own two companies or make $100,000 a year and they have a bunch of kids, their light bulb should come on. First of all, $100,000 a year, roughly around, I'm going to say 10% of people make $100,000 a year. Now, $100,000 a year is not sufficient in cities like New York, Chicago, Boston, LA, and DC because of the cost of living. So when somebody tells you they make a sufficient amount of money, you have to ask them this. Are you working for somebody? What is the cost of living in your city? Also, you have to figure in if you have a regular job, what's coming out of your check. And with some companies, they take pre-tax items out of your check, such as healthcare, 401k, dental. If you're in a union, they're going to take union dues out of your check. And that's all before your actual gross salary is taxed. Then once they take all those deductions out of your check, you have to look at on the tax tables where $100,000 falls incrementally. Now, if you think about it, I believe the highest increment for federal income taxes is around 35%. And then you have to go to state taxes. Now, here in the state of Indiana, The state tax is all a flat tax. So no matter what you make, it's roughly around 3.37%. Then I live in Tippecanoe County. So that's more taxes that come out of my check. It's roughly about 1 or 1.5% that comes out of my check. Then you have to figure out Social Security and, of course, Medicare, which that's another 7%. So let's put all these figures together. If you are living in a state and you are telling me you make $100,000 a year, you're probably grossing $100,000 a year. So for anybody who watches Kendra G with all those delusional women on that show, ask them, do you really bring home $100,000 a year? And to say this as well, you have to look at your regular living expenses as well. Yes, those are also expenses. I'm talking about your food, your gas. Are you making any type of car payments? Do you have credit cards? Are you paying utilities, cable? Are you paying for cell phone? And one of the biggest assets is, are you paying mortgage? And I guarantee if you take $100,000 a year, even if you're making $120,000 a year, you're going to get a large amount of taxes taken out of that check. Those are tax deductions. Then you're going to get health insurance deductions as well. Although they're pre-tax, that is still money that comes out of your check. Also, you work for a company, I forgot to add this expense. Yes, some companies are going to pay part of your 401k plan, but the company is also going to deduct money for 401k out of your paycheck as well. So, if you hear somebody tell you they make $100,000 a year, most of them don't make $100,000 a year. Now, I heard one lady on Kendra G's show said she pays $300,000 in taxes. Well, what kind of business does she have? I'm going to tell you, a number of women on her show, they talk about having businesses, and many of them can't even run their own lives. They're looking for something that is totally a wish. This is that delusion. This is that arrested development. Now, I'm not criticizing the women on that show because they're Black, but I am using her show to let you know that the delusion is real. Now, are some of them making that kind of money? Yes, very little. In fact, when it comes to education, yes, no one might have degrees, but they don't have degrees in fields that are very marketable. Yes, working for the government, and I used to work for the government, it's a cushy job, especially if you're pushing paper, but you don't get rich by working for the government. And if you have a job, you really don't get rich at all either. And also, if you have a business, well, unless you have employees working for you who are helping you generate revenue for your business, you're not going to make a lot of business at all either. Why? Because owning a business, if you're going to run it correctly, it's going to take a team of people. Who's going to run your human resources for you? Who's going to do your accounting for you? Your marketing? What does your organizational structure look like? Do you have a website? What type of product are you selling to the public? What the biggest thing is, what is your tax ID number? See, people can tell me all day that they have businesses. And I guarantee some of the individuals who are on Kendra G show, they're probably running some get rich scheme like multi-level marketing. In fact, when I did Amway, you want to know who most of my customers were when I did Amway? They were women. Why? Because a lot of women are gullible. They believe that they're empowered by money. Yes, money and education can make you feel empowered. However, you're still part of the system. You're still working for somebody. And if you are making money on YouTube or OnlyFans or TikTok, guess what? You don't own the platform. So you have to follow their rules. And again, you have a number of people out here who are over appraising themselves. And this is what I did not like about the late Kevin Samuels. He was always preaching six figures. Well, the majority of Americans don't make six figures. And for you women out there who are looking for a guy to make even $70,000 to $80,000, particularly black men, you're not going to find too much of that either, because men in that bracket are very, very scarce as well. So, what I'm telling you is this, and this is common sense. You don't need any game to have common sense. If you're going to go out and you're going to date somebody, drop the words equally yoked. Make sure they make sense. And when I mean make sense, be rational about living in reality. Make sure they are adults. Now, I've done a couple of videos on these dating sites, and a number of individuals who are looking for dates, they're not looking for dates for the right reasons. Now, again, it's nothing wrong with meeting somebody and getting to know someone, but you have to be realistic. And the guys as well. You know, you're looking for something that's typically out of your range. But let me stay on topic, because owning a business, making $100,000 a year is very trivial. See, the bottom line is, when it comes to money, how much money do you have in a bank? And if you are going out, you're making a lot of money, but you're spending a lot of money, and actually you spend more than you make, and you do a benefit cost analysis, well, if you have more tangible materials, and something tangible is what you can touch, what are those materials worth? You see, $100,000 is a salary. But does that mean it's worth? It's just like having a business. Well, what type of business do you have? Do you have an LLC? Do you have a self-employed business? In fact, if anybody wants to start a business, get an LLC, a liquid liability corporation. And also, Kendra doesn't do this either. She never asks those women who come on her show, do they have any insurance for their business? At least general liability. You see, when those questions aren't asked and she's giving individuals a pass, that means she's lying to them. Omission is a form of lying. And when it comes to a number of women in our country, they follow, and this is very, very true, they're more communal than we guys. Now, I'm not saying we're smarter. I'm just saying women are more communal. They believe in systems of government. You know, when it comes to protection, They believe in having proxy. And what I mean proxy, brothers, simp guys, the police, they have systems to protect them. This is why they come up with the I don't need a man notion. Of course, when the policies are put in place to help you, well, in the long run, you can succeed because the system will also give you money for help, where we men don't get money. We have to make it on our own, but that's okay. The world is not fair and it will never be fair. But when it comes to making $100,000 a year, yes, it's a nice salary if you don't live in the blue states like California, New Jersey, New York, Maryland, Massachusetts. We call it Taxachusetts, Seattle, Washington, Providence, Rhode Island. Those states are run by Democrats, and all those states have high taxes. And if you don't believe me, why are people from those blue states moving to Arizona, Texas, even Idaho, and then down to Florida, the Carolinas? Now, thankfully, the only people that are going to call Indiana their home are some people from Illinois. But the problem is, not many of them are moving here because Indiana doesn't have the greatest population. In fact, it is spread out. Indianapolis is the biggest city here in the state of Indiana. Now, if you made $100,000 a year here in Indiana, you could live very well because the taxes are very low. But overall, when it comes to making that kind of money, I'm not saying there are no individuals on her show who make that money, but I'm going to say it's few and far between. And for you guys who support her show, I would take caution. In fact, that's going to be my next video I'm going to do. Watch where you go. Because I got a news article where a woman gave her man put some roach spray in her drink. That's another video. But I want to get this topic about $100,000 a year out in the open. $100,000, it's money. And for a number of you women out there, as a man, we don't care about your money. We don't care about your education. It's nice to have it, but it doesn't make you better than us or more intelligent than us. But I guarantee a lot of you who have the education have more debt. And as for men out there, okay, don't get caught up in the exterior of a woman either. She doesn't make sense, don't deal with her. If she has a bunch of kids, don't deal with her. You have to look at people's lives. And again, I'm not criticizing Kendra G. She's going to make money on her show. Because not only are women going to support her show, but there are a number of men that support her show too. And I've seen some dusty men come on her show just as I've seen dusty women. Now, what she's doing again to the women, she's totally giving the women a pass. Now, some of the guys, she'll call them out. Now, she's starting to call out some of the women. Because after a while, individuals do get frustrated. It's like watching Hell's Kitchen. You get a number of individuals who are coming onto the scene thinking that they can cook and they can't. Well, that's her show. If you're looking for a man for his money, then that man is going to have a lot of options. We all know about it. So what you need to do is to be realistic with your expectations, and then you won't be disappointed. But this whole issue about making $100,000 a year, not a lot of people make $100,000 a year. That's just like telling a man he should have a PhD, or a woman she should have a PhD. Not a lot of people have PhDs. Not that they can't go to college. Some people don't want to go to college. College isn't made for some people. But just because they don't go to college, it doesn't mean that they have nothing to offer. In fact, people who have become millionaires without going to college had no debt. See, you have to treat life like a business. You have to have some money in the bank. You have to have some type of investment, whether it's in the stock market, whether it's a 401k plan. Some people have crypto, which I don't know enough about crypto. I've heard some individuals talk about it. But if you're really going to get into the game, get some bonds. Bonds are still out there. There are a number of items that you can get to create wealth. You see, a salary doesn't create wealth. Even if you own a business, and when you hear a number of these women on Kendra's show talking about they want a man making $100,000 a year, got to ask them, are you making $100,000 a year? And you always hear a number of them talk about traveling. Well, whenever you hear something like that, you run like hell because that person wants you to spend money on their lifestyle. But I know there are a number of men who are still going to fall for the okie doke out there because they're too ignorant to understand what's going on in the real world. But again, when it comes to making money, as an adult, you should be able to take care of yourself. Now, I know I've heard some women say, I got my own house, I got my own car, all this stuff we've heard for the last 20, 30, 40 years. Well, you don't get any accolades from me. You're an adult. If you don't have anybody that's helping you out, like a husband or a significant other living in that house with you, you have to do it by yourself. Heck, as a man, we have to do it by ourselves. So, number of individual women who are talking about they don't need a man can say the same thing. We've always been self-sufficient. And that's another thing. Talking about making $100,000. Number of you women, you're not very handy. So you're going to have to pay somebody, particularly if you have a house. If something happens to the roof, you're going to have to pay a contractor to come fix your roof. You got to pay somebody to fix your car, your plumbing, and a number of you don't even cook. So that's another expense. You spend a lot of money on frivolous items and you never have any money. And you're going to work yourself to death. And by the time you get into your 50s, 60s, because some of you don't even look at that, you only look at now. A number of you are going to be broke. In fact, you have more women on the government dole when they get older for Medicare and Medicaid than men. Of course, men die a little early too. So, if you've had a husband, you can and he dies, you can get some of his Social Security or his retirement and, a divorce. Now, out there, and I don't have much facts on it. Rumor going around that Steve Harvey's wife had an affair on him with a bodyguard. I don't have too much facts on that. And I read she actually wants $400 million. So she goes out and cheats. If she did it, she does the deed and now wants a divorce because she got caught. So she wants him to pay $400 million. And see, the dumb thing that Steve Harvey did, he adopted her kids. There's no way I would have done that. That's why when you deal with a woman with kids, you got to think about it. Most of them, they're not going to respect you anyway. Now, they have the exceptions, but I'm not going by the exceptions. I'm generally going by the rule here. But again, when it comes to money, I'm going to stay on topic. $100,000 is a lot of money on the gross level, but you have to look at the reality of everything. What do you have left after all of your expenses? And see, $100,000 is an annual salary. So it's basically just a little under $10,000 a month. But again, in a number of the women on the Kendra G show, they don't account for that. And Kendra does not ask them what they do for business. There was one woman on her show, she said she had 2 trucking businesses. Okay. And then they come up there, some of them have young kids and they like to travel. Well, how are you going to do that and run a business? Because somewhere on the line, you have to work. And then you're talking about meeting a man. A man is not going to take you and your kids on a trip if he's smart. See, these are the questions that are never asked. And this is how I always tell when somebody is overpraising themselves. And when some of them will give an argument, they're going to use an anecdotal argument by talking about the exception, but the exception does not prove the rule. So I will say this. When it comes to business, you have to look at this. And there's only one way you can look at it. If somebody tells you they have a business, ask them to see a business plan. See if they have a website. And this is a true business. It's not this OnlyFans bullshit. It's not TikTok. That's somebody else's platform. Now, are there some individuals making some pretty decent money on YouTube? Because I don't even consider YouTube a business either. If it's something that you didn't create that has your name on it, it's not your platform. It's somebody else's. And when it's somebody else's, guess what? You have to follow their rules. And if you don't believe me, ask Fresh and Fit. They were on another platform on Rumble, but they got demonetized because they did not follow guidelines. Now, you can make money on YouTube. And the guy you should listen to when it comes to YouTube, shout out to Brother Ringo, he can tell you everything. Because it's happened to him. And let me give another shout out. Shout out to Brother Red Supreme. He is right when it comes to Black YouTube. And I'm going to share this with you too, because I've had some individuals ask me, well, why haven't I done panels? Well, I haven't done panels because why am I going to waste my time by delivering my information and I don't get any support? And when I mean support, get some likes, get some viewership. And when it comes to Black YouTube, I'm pretty much fed up with it. I am. And what Brother Red Supreme said about Black YouTube, a lot of individuals, they're not the brightest bulbs in the world. They like the drama. Too old for the drama. I'm looking for a different audience. I have 2 channels out there. But on this channel, I'm not going to put any drama. But when I see something that's going on in the real world, I'm going to report it. But I'm not going to report it unless I have factual information. I don't believe in gossip. But again, going back to this $100,000 and this education, all the bullshit you hear. Having a degree is nice. I have it myself, but it doesn't make me any smarter than anybody else. What it did was give me the requirements for what I studied so I can get into the job. Now, let me tell you something else too. A lot of what you get in college is all memorization. You can get a textbook in school. For the most part, the instructor, they don't give you a test on every problem in a book. They give you a few problems and you have to be able to solve them. But everything is memorization. Now, memorization does not make you a genius. You know, I'm going to teach a class. What I'm going to do is basically tell you where to find it. Then you go find it. You have a lot of open book tests. A lot of people don't know where to look up information. It's easy to regurgitate information, but it doesn't make you smart. Now, again, I believe in education, not indoctrination. And there are certain fields that I believe that are worthy for the market. And get some people that go to school for a PhD. That's great. Looks great on the record. I mean, I salute people who really have a business, whether they're struggling through it or making money. Not a lot of us have businesses out here. Very hard to create a business. But again, when you hear somebody tell you they're making $100,000 or they're looking for somebody making $100,000, you ask them, do you qualify for a person that's making $100,000? And why should a man be with you when you're bringing hardly nothing yourself but your body? Now, of course, you have some dumb guys out there who go for that. And I don't fault women for taking a man's money, for going in that direction. But what I will tell you this is most of us don't make $100,000 a year. In fact, your average white man makes roughly around 51,000. Black man, 42,000. I don't quote stats, but I'm just looking at the average everyday person. Most of us go to work and we're working for somebody. We don't own a business. We pay taxes. You have a number of us struggling out here. But we do what we need to do to make it through life in a legal way. See, most of us follow rules. So again, not everybody makes $100,000 a year. It's a good figure to make. But when you hear that number come out of anybody's mouth, particularly some of these ladies on Kendra G's mouth, and when you hear that I'm an entrepreneur, ask them what they do. See if they have a tax ID number, a website. See if they have the name of a business. See if you can find that in Google. If they have search engine operation. SEO. See if they have a logo. And I'm not talking about the platforms like OnlyFans or YouTube. Talk about a real business and see if they have time to operate that business when they have little children that they're raising by themselves. You see, this is where you poke holes in their arguments because many of them don't. They're delusional, live in arrested development. And I'm just putting this information out here to let you know that no matter what you got to look at where you are in life, how you're living in life, and where you want to go in life. You know, what I see on Kendra G's show is a number of individuals who are living for the moment. That's not going to get it done. Can't live on projection or hope or wishing. You're really going to make it here, you have to work smart. Certainly, you're going to struggle. But again, I'm not picking on women or men, but you got some that want to wait at the finish line while the man runs a race. So he's putting all the sweat out, and then you'll catch him if he comes in first place. That makes absolutely no sense. That is the most delusional type of thinking I heard. But then you have people who fall for it. I don't believe in overworking myself. You know, the system is unfair out here. But again, when it comes to business, you got to have a business plan. Talk about an honest business. You're going to have to pay out some expenses. You don't know how to write a business plan, you're going to have to pay somebody to do it for you. You're going to have to pay somebody to do a website for you. I'm talking about starting a business from scratch. In other words, you have to have capital. And if you have a business that's going to involve trucking, heck, you got to buy a depot. I mean, where are you going to park your trucks? You have to buy the trucks. These are things that people need to think about. If you have a restaurant, the biggest cost is labor, food costs. If you have a construction company. So what I just explained to you, a couple types of businesses, those are businesses that generally fail too, because there's a lot of competition. You need to know your competition out there. You know, OnlyFans, TikTok, it's not business to me. It's people making donations. Now, again, you do have individuals on YouTube. Now, is YouTube a business? Yes and no. From my standpoint, because it's not your platform, it's not a business. But now here's where and this is going to sound contradictory. Here's where it is a business. Because if you use the platform to make money, you have a team that's helping you with certain items like editing and doing special computer graphics for you. It's a business. Now, is it a business that has a tax ID number or a logo? I'm going to say no, because I haven't seen many individuals who copyright their logos. And that's another thing. You can have all the merch in the world, but is your service mark, you have an SM, a TM, an R, and a C inscribed in a circle saying that your business is trademark or copyright? Most of them don't. So people can claim you stole their trademark. Now, me, that logo that I use for the QCIS channel, I actually designed that logo myself. And on my website, Quality Control Inspection Services, there's an R inscribed in the circle. Now, here's something else too. If your logo is copyrighted or trademarked, you get a certificate for it too. So don't believe anybody until they produce the documentation. See, me, I can produce the documentation because I went through an intellectual property rights lawyer to get all that done for me. And it cost some real money, but kept me out of hot water. Nobody can take my logo. Now, a business that is trademarked, that symbol that you have at that service mark is good for 10 years, while a copyright is good for 70 years. But see, again, this is what Kendra doesn't ask her ladies who are looking for men about their businesses. She just lets it go. Me, I'm going to ask you, do you even know what entrepreneur means? Because you have a number of them who repeat the word because it sounds good and they don't even know what it means. Again, you have a number of women out here who will call themselves feminists and they have no idea what feminism means. They're followers. Like I said, I'm not knocking anybody who goes on her show or knocking her. She's going to make her money. But what I am going to tell you is they make a big deal over $100,000 a year. And many of them aren't making that type of money at all. They're lying. And many of them don't have a business. They're just sitting around on OnlyFans while people are donating to them. I know that. So many of them aren't smart enough to have a business because the way I told you how to do it, they're not going to take the time to do it. Why? Because it is difficult. And again, when it comes to $100,000 a year and having your own business, many of us who live in the real world don't make that kind of money and we don't own a business. But in the end, we still know how to budget money. It's just like everybody doesn't have a PhD, but we all have education. Just because you don't have a degree doesn't mean you're not educated, doesn't mean you're not a scholar. But as I wrap this video up, I'm just going to say this. When somebody says they make $100,000 a year, ask them, do they bring that kind of money home net wise? And then after all of their monies are expensed from after the taxes, after their spending habits, see if they have that in the bank or see if they have that after everything is gone. And what I mean when everything is gone, all your bills, your car note, your mortgage, your groceries, if you have children, your daycare, your cell phone, your clothes, your perfume. See what they have left after they spend that. Oh, yes, their college. Some of them are paying guaranteed student loans off. They're eating out. They're traveling. Once all that money is spent, see if they really have $100,000 a year. And I guarantee you'll get a different answer. And when it comes to business, see if their business has a website, a business plan, a product, a name, a logo. See if that business has a marketing plan, a business plan. See if that business has a tax ID number, an LLC. Now, I'm not saying being self-employed or sole proprietorship is bad, but when you get sued, they're going to come after you as an individual, not after your company. And finally, see if that business has insurance, like general liability insurance. And when you put the puzzle together, in the end, you're going to find out that they don't make $100,000 a year themselves, net wise. They don't own a business that's legitimate. Because when it comes to money, if you make more, or if you spend more than you make, you're going to be broke. And when it comes to a business, if your business is a get rich scheme, it's not a business. But in the end, when it comes to having your own business and making $100,000 a year, most of us don't make $100,000 a year, and most of us don't have a business. But what most of us do have is a job, everyday job, and we keep pushing it every day with what we got. And many of us, we're trying to be humble. And when it comes to education, I believe the best education is common sense. Why? Because common sense is the obvious. It's in layman's terms. And when it comes to $100,000 a year, business and education, when it comes down to the real world and you have common sense, most of us understand common sense because common sense has value. And that's my commentary for this edition of the 411 Talk Zone radio show right here on YouTube. If you like what I just presented, please comment, share, and subscribe. And if you are looking for some STEM content, you check out my second channel, the QCIS channel. On that channel, I'll give you a daily dose of science, technology, engineering, and of course, math. And if you can't find the 411 Talk Zone radio show or the QCIS channel on YouTube, you can find both of those channels on Twitter, which is now X. Now for the QCIS channel, I take it one step further. Since it's an educational channel, you can find that channel on my LinkedIn page. Because in the end, be blessed for what you have. Don't worry about what you don't have. Always know that the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. If it doesn't apply, let it fly. But if the shoe fits, wear it. If you don't like the shoe, change it. Once again, thank you for listening to this edition of the 411 Talk Zone radio show right here on YouTube. Till next time, my name is Leon Jones. I want you all to have a wonderful and gracious evening. God bless you. I'm out.